Inter Miami have a 33% chance of making the playoffs.
I also
less than 1% of winning it.
I think that this is also further behind because they have not taken into account the new playoff format. Every team makes the playoffs more or less.
That is a very good segue.
More
Thank
or less.
you.
Because if Inter Miami have a 33% chance of making the playoffs, that means they have to finish between 10th and 15th, which is a third of the East standing. So technically every team has a 2/3 chance of making the playoffs just for existing in the league. So there you have it. With that said, this new format consists of 9 teams bumping up from the original 7 in each conference, 1 through 7 with a bye to the quote-unquote first round, and 8 and 9 playing each other in a playoff to have the right to play number 1 in a, and hold on to your horses, 3-match series, home, away, home. That's going to take about a week and a half to complete.
That makes sense to me.
Why does it make sense to you?
What?
Because then there's you could have it at multiple fixtures and also have home advantage as like being a thing.
I think people have been saying
instead of stupid away goals.
People have been saying why this, and away goals don't matter. It's
exactly.
First team to win 2 matches.
I think 3 games is better than away goals. Away goals are stupid.
I think that's an argument. They went away with it in Europe, and that for a reason that people think it's stupid. And I think you're right to have that opinion if you choose to have it. With that said, the reason behind that additional playoff field and the additional matches is for money, for TV money from Apple. We know that. Why is this the route that they've chosen instead of what was rumored before was a World Cup style group stage for the playoffs? And then they realized that they could have teams that would already be eliminated from playoffs still playing meaningful games. And then they were like, okay, so maybe we need to do it. We have a series, then we go to the actual playoff contention. That way, also, every team gets a home game in the playoffs, which is big not only for TV revenue because it's an extra game, but for stadium revenue for
organizations.
Teams. And that's not just for fans to put seats in the stadium. That's for people who work at the stadiums, work for the teams. That's beneficial for jobs. You're one of them. You work at Yankee Stadium.
Is that 16 teams are going to get a home game in the playoffs?
Yeah,
that's
16
an insane
teams.
Number.
Wait, hold on. Wait, are you saying that so basically, I don't think every team gets one because if you're in the wild
if you're the
card,
if you're the 9th seed, you won't.
Okay,
unless you win. Unless you win, you're
yeah.
It's like the NBA play-in, and this is
actually,
and the NBA play-in is a disaster. Everyone hates it.
And wait, okay, let's
wrong sport,
let's
guys.
backpedal.
This isn't Pick and Pod.
First of all, the play-in's great. The play-in's awesome. Second of all,
the NBA play-in.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Okay, and I'm gonna go now.
I'm
gonna go now because I'll just for the next couple minutes I'll
Take
just
your time.
see you guys go.
Take your time.
The play-in is great. The play-in is reinventing how it is. It's not keeping it bland. It's something that baseball kind of did before everybody, but basketball really where it was comes from you're already a seed in. You're second to last team that's in the playoffs, and you got to go play. Like, that's a whole nother aspect. It changes how you kind of think about these playoff teams and kind of adds almost the factor relegation adds, where it's like these teams have something to play for and kind of gives teams something to play for, because in the MLS and just like any sports league in general, you're just really looking for, to give teams motivation to win games, and expanding the playoffs is the reason to do that, especially so how drastic it is. That could really give teams motivation that, like, hey, any of us can win, and I think that's really cool. I don't know why you guys are so against it, honestly.
I think that in a league like Major League Soccer, and correct me if I'm wrong, my interpretation of the NBA play-in game was that they realized LeBron and the Lakers were not going to make the playoffs mid-season, and then altered it so he would have a chance.
You were off by a year. They announced it the year they won the championship, and LeBron called it stupid, and then the next year he was in
and
it.
then he was benefited by it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just ironic. That's a funny
He
story.
may not even make it this year.
Well,
he's the
Wrong
greatest.
that's neither here nor there.
Greatest athlete ever lived.
Yeah. Congrats on
Messi,
breaking the points record, LeBron. I hope you're listening.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said LeBron's the greatest athlete of all time besides Messi. I don't know why that made you want to stop. I don't know why that made you stop him from talking. But
that's not like a crazy thing.
Okay, I didn't hear the Messi part. I just heard greatest athlete of all time.
Okay. With that said, the reason I don't love the idea of a play-in in Major League Soccer is because the regular season is already so watered down in this league. This only does more, and I think this was kind of the vibe at Media Day with the Red Bulls. Pretty much all the reporters were kind of in the same boat, that they understood. And this is kind of maybe specific to only the Red Bulls because they are historically terrible in the playoffs. But the vibe was, well, the regular season's not going to matter to the last 10 games now. And the playoffs are going to take up way too much time and effort from the regular season. And Leagues Cup already gives out 3 Champions League spots now. So what's even the point to try to go for a supporter shield? Well, I think those are all valid criticisms. I think the 3 legs, the 3-match series, while they will be exciting, I think it takes away from the regular season, which I think is ultimately the status of global soccer is that the regular season isn't even a thing. It's just the season. And if the best team at the end of the season, you're the champion. I think that it's good that MLS is unique and different and has their own way of crowning a champion. It keeps the league fresh. I think enhancing the playoff field is good to keep fans engaged, to keep things fresh, like you mentioned, Chris. But I still go back to 2018 and prior, when their playoff format, to me, was so perfect in terms of getting the right level of competition and fairness into a league that has so much turnover and unpredictability and parity that you want to have a playoffs. They had 6 teams. It was kind of like the NFL playoffs before they made it 7. You had 6 teams in each conference make it. First and second seed get a bye. Third seed plays the 6, and the 4 plays the 5 in one-off matches. And then from there, it's 2 legs until the final. To me, that mimicked European soccer in a way that it was appealing to soccer fans. It was competitive enough that it didn't exclude too many teams that it was too small of a playoff field, but also had enough that it kept the entire league engaged. And I also think that it was American enough for playoffs to be fun and everyone to say this is something that we can all aspire to be. And teams got home games in the semifinals and the conference semifinals and the conference finals. Obviously, there's fewer games than that, and there's more money to be earned with 9 playoff teams and these. So we understand the decision. I think from a competitive standpoint, that 6-team playoff format with 2 legs was probably the best one, and also it mitigated against the crapshoot of MLS playoffs. You know, we've seen teams go on random runs, and I'll go pick from recent experience in New York, 2021. They caught fire very late in the season. No one expected them to be an MLS Cup final, and then they were. In 2008, the Red Bulls qualified into the Western Conference via the old wildcard system and made it to MLS Cup final out of seemingly nothing. MLS Cup playoffs are a crapshoot, and having one-off matches in the knockout rounds only makes that worse. I think having multiple legs is a good idea. I prefer the 2-leg system just because that's more soccer-related than the 3-match ties. This goes back to the old school 90s days when they used to do 3-game series in MLS Cup playoffs, and they would have to have a winner. First to 2 matches wins. That is the current format, only for the first round, because then after that it goes back to single elimination, which I don't love, because then there's the crapshoot factor. And if you really want MLS Cup to be the defining trophy for the best team in the league, then I feel like it shouldn't be a crapshoot and should be indicative of quality. This helps with that a little bit, whereas the single elimination 7 teams I thought did not help with that. But I think it eliminates the problem again by going back to 1-leg ties, to just off matches after the first round.
Not much you can add to that. That was like pretty perfect.
I jokingly said it before with the NYCFC, but he basically took most of what I was gonna say. I mean, I'm the thing I hate the most. I honestly don't think I mind the play-in. Maybe just because I'm a new MLS fan or trying to become an MLS fan, but the thing that's really getting under my skin is the best of 3. I can't imagine that in soccer. Like if anything, if you want to have more
it's MLS
games,
history though.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you want to have more games, why not just do a home and away leg for both?
Why always bring back the old shootout too? Why not?
I see. That's what I'm saying. If they're going to commit to it, and by the way, this is a rule: no extra time in these games.
What? Straight to penalties?
If it's tied after 90, straight to penalties.
What?
Which I think is atrocious.
Bro, that's crazy.
That's a bit insulting.
But it, for fitness purposes, that's why they have it.
If they're doing 3
if they
games,
do 3 120-minute games in a row,
yeah, that's the issue that I'm having. Like,
this is why
it's 3
you could
games.
do two home and away.
Why
and
not just do 2?
Also, one more thing, just before you keep
less
going.
money to be made.
Soccer and hockey having shootouts to decide games is easily the dumbest thing in the history of sports. It is like mind-numbingly dumb about how that can decide a game.
Hockey should end in a tie before it should go to a shootout.
No, they should play forever.
Or they could expand.
Is there like a second hockey puck that goes in after like 6 overtime?
That is incorrect.
I
think
tragedy.
Well,
you thought that was you were like serious just now? Oh, okay.
I don't know.
That's from NHL 3s you might be thinking of.
Yeah.
I think that is exactly what you're
Yeah.
thinking. But I think this just the dialogue around this has been mostly negative from the fans. I think everybody realizes it's a cash grab, and it is what it is.
Look, I understand the MLS wanting to make as much money as possible, but if you do home and away legs for both, so it's the conference semifinals and then the conference finals, apart from round one.
Yeah.
If you do home and away legs, that is more games alone than this current best of 3 matchup, because according to the MLS website, the round one, so the best of 3 series, can have a maximum of 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
If you do home and away for those, that's 16 as well, if I'm not mistaken. My math might be a bit off, but then you also do home and away for the conference semifinals and the conference finals. Every team gets a home game. I'm not saying we keep away goals, because that's been scrapped in Europe, but it should be, at least if you want to have every team to have a home game, then do home, have a 2-legged competition. It's still giving good revenue, because it's, instead of 3 games, imagine NYCFC goes off against Red Bulls, NYCFC wins game 1, then game 2 is we want to win, but if anything, we have a game 3. I'd prefer to have 2 legs, just because
I do it too.
It's always, at least in European soccer, it's always been that. I understand. I get why they want to do 3 legs. It also makes it more appealing, because everything else in the U.S. is there's best of 7 for baseball, basketball. For everything it's best of something. But for soccer, I don't think, if you want to do a best of 3, maybe do that for the play-in game. If you want to do that, just because the play-in thing is a strictly American thing. If you want to do the play-in for that best of 3, be my guest, because that's I think that could be a nice compromise, but to have it for when every team is playing best of 3, I think that's stupid.
So
I would rather have a home and away.
I'm with you entirely, but MLS is not going to go back to the home and away system, because they prefer the single elimination so much more. The TV viewership per match obviously increases, because each match has more value.
Stakes.
So not only that, the way that they build it was that if you perform better in your regular season, single elimination is going to help you, because you have to win one match, you have home advantage the entire way through. That.
Anything could happen though.
Right.
That's why you said it's
But they like this. The single elimination has done too well for the league for them to go back to 2 legs. The reason that they're doing the 3 legs is so they can pump in the more matches, and this was a way of them to do that without going back to home and away.
I'm not saying that the final should be home and away. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
The final should be a one.
The CONCACAF Champions League final is home and away.
Wild. But if anything, this thing should be more of the UEFA Champions, to have the home and away, and then the
Plus,
final.
You guys know these best of 3s are all going to end up with a single elimination game anyway. One's gonna win the home game, the other one's gonna win their home game, and then it's gonna end up being exactly what you guys are complaining about right now.
It's just first of all, it's like I said, if one team wins game 1, then if they lose game 2, if anything, we have game 3. So it's I do predict a lot of it will go to the to the decisive game.
Almost all of them.
Also,
probably.
you got to remember, this is soccer, so fitness is going to be a massive deal with 3 games and admittedly probably a short amount of time, probably 2 weeks.
You're gonna have such a leg up if you win in 2 instead of 3. It's gonna be so, because and you actually, is the third one extra time, or is all of them penalties?
All of them
no
go straight to
what?
Penalties after 90 minutes.
I would have preferred the third one to go into extra time, if anything, because that would have given it a bit more.
I'm sure that by 2025 this format won't exist, because they change their format every other year now.
I like that.
But with that said, I think there's also to mention yellow cards are going to be a very big deal in a 3-match series. Think about it. You pick up a yellow card in the first and the second, you're out for the third, or then you could be out for the next leg. I don't know. This is all new to us.
I'm sure we'll find out more when the time comes.